Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. We love to go deep on some of these health and wellness topics.
That's right.
And today we are looking at the benefits of adopting an Ayurvedic lifestyle.
Yes.
Um, and this is fascinating to me because Ayurveda is one of those things that I think we all have heard of, but we don't really
Yeah.
maybe know that much about.
Yeah.
We're going to be pulling from an article here called The Benefits of Adopting an Ayurvedic Lifestyle, and just really trying to get to the core of what this is all about
Absolutely.
and what it could mean for us in our own lives.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway really with Ayurveda is that it's a holistic system
Okay.
that looks at the whole person. So it's not just about treating a symptom. It's about really understanding the underlying causes
Got it.
of imbalance within the individual,
Mm.
and then using a variety of different tools and techniques to bring the person back into balance.
That's really interesting because when I think about like Western medicine,
Right?
it's like, okay, you go to the doctor, you say,
Well,
I've got this symptom, I've got a headache, I've got, whatever.
technically, treat the headache, treat the symptom, right?
Right. And they give you something to mask the symptom,
Absolutely.
but they don't really get into like what's causing the headache.
That's right.
So it sounds like Ayurveda really digs down into the root cause of things.
Absolutely. It addresses the root cause, and it looks at, the individual as a whole. So it takes into account your mind, your body, and your spirit, and how all of those things are interconnected,
Oh, wow.
and how they're all contributing to your overall health and well-being.
Okay, so we're not just talking about the physical body. We're talking about
Yeah.
the mind, the mental health, and also the spiritual side of things as well.
Absolutely. That's right.
So it's like a fully integrated system.
It is.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so the goal really is to create this harmony between all those different aspects of yourself
I love
so that you can experience optimal health and well-being.
And speaking of harmony, the article talks a lot about balance. And it seems like that's a really core concept in Ayurveda, is this idea of finding balance.
Absolutely. Balance is key in Ayurveda. In fact, the word for health in Sanskrit is actually swastha, which literally means established in oneself.
Wow.
And that really speaks to this idea of balance being at the core of well-being.
Mm.
So when we're in balance, we feel grounded, we feel centered, we feel at ease.
I like that, established in oneself.
Yeah.
So it's like an inner strength,
Yes, very much so.
an inner knowing
Exactly.
that everything is as it should be.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into some of the specifics here, because the article jumps right into talking about food,
Yes,
almost like it's the foundation for everything else.
it is. And that's because in Ayurveda, food is seen as medicine.
Okay, so this is not just about calories or macros or like, what's trendy on Instagram.
Oh,
This is about actually using food to heal and nourish the body.
absolutely. It's about understanding the energetic properties of different foods
Mm.
and how they can impact your body and your mind.
So how does Ayurveda approach food differently than maybe some of the other, diet trends that we hear about all the time?
Well, I think one of the key differences is that Ayurveda really emphasizes personalized nutrition.
Okay.
So it's not about, one size fits all. It's about understanding your individual constitution, what Ayurveda is called, your dosha, and then choosing foods that are going to help to balance your unique dosha.
Okay, so this is like really individualized. You're not just going to pick up a diet book and say, okay, I'm going to follow this.
Right.
This is about really understanding yourself and what works for you.
Absolutely. It's about working with a practitioner who can help you to understand your dosha, your constitution, and then to create a diet and a lifestyle plan that's going to support your individual needs.
Okay, so let's talk about the doshas for a second.
Yes.
Can you give us like a little primer on what the doshas are and how they relate to food choices?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Ayurveda, there are three main doshas: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And each of these doshas is made up of different elements. So Vata is air and ether.
Okay,
Pitta is fire and water. And Kapha is earth and water.
interesting.
And so each of these doshas has different qualities. And so if you have a lot of Vata in your constitution, for example, you might tend to be more, kind of light and airy, and maybe a little more prone to anxiety or, feeling ungrounded.
Right.
Whereas if you have a lot of Pitta, you might be more fiery and intense and maybe a little bit more prone to anger or inflammation.
Okay.
And if you have a lot of Kapha, you might be more, grounded and stable, but also maybe a little bit more prone to lethargy or, kind of sluggishness.
I see.
So it's really about understanding which of these doshas is dominant in you and then choosing foods that are going to help to balance that dosha.
So give us an example then, like if someone has a lot of vata, what kind of foods might they want to focus on?
So someone with a lot of Vata would want to focus on foods that are grounding and warming and nourishing.
Hmm.
So things like cooked vegetables, root vegetables, soups, stews, things that are going to help to kind of ground that Vata energy.
Okay, so like heavy, hearty foods.
Exactly. And also things that are going to, you know, kind of warm them up from the inside out, because Vata is also associated with coldness.
Okay,
So using warming spices like ginger and cinnamon would be really beneficial for Vata.
got it. And what about Pitta? What kind of foods would they want to stay away from?
Yeah, so Pitta, as I mentioned, is associated with heat. And so Pitta types would want to avoid foods that are overly spicy or oily or acidic.
Okay,
So, really kind of reducing those heating qualities in the diet.
so like spicy peppers.
Spicy peppers, fried foods, things
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
Okay.
And then focusing on more cooling foods like cucumbers and cilantro and things that are going to help to, kind of soothe that Pitta fire.
I like it. And then Kapha.
Kapha. So Kapha, as I mentioned, is earth and water. So Kapha types tend to be a little bit more prone to stagnation, and so they would want to avoid foods that are heavy and oily and rich. So kind of reducing the amount of dairy and sugar and heavy meats in the diet.
So lighter foods.
Yeah, more lighter foods, and also incorporating foods that are going to stimulate digestion. So things like ginger and black pepper, and things that are going to kind of help to get things moving.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about what we eat, it's also about
It's about when we eat.
when we eat.
How we eat all of those things play a role in Ayurveda.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So tell me more about that. Like, what does Ayurveda say about when we should be eating our meals?
So Ayurveda actually recommends eating your main meal at midday,
Okay,
when your digestive fire is at its strongest.
interesting.
So that's when you're going to be able to digest your food most efficiently, and then having lighter meals in the morning and in the evening.
So like a big lunch.
Big lunch. Yeah, exactly.
And then smaller breakfast and dinner.
That's right.
Okay. That's interesting because in the West, it's almost like the opposite.
It is, yeah. We tend to have a big dinner and then a smaller lunch.
Right, or even skip lunch.
Yeah, exactly. But Ayurveda really emphasizes that midday meal as being the most important.
And how about how we eat? What does Ayurveda say about that?
Yeah, so Ayurveda encourages mindful eating. So really paying attention to the taste and the texture and the aroma of your food.
Oh, okay.
Chewing your food, thoroughly eating in a calm and relaxed environment.
So no, like eating on the run.
No eating in front of the TV or, scrolling through your phone.
Got it.
Really being present with your food and savoring each bite.
I love that because I think in our busy world, we often just shovel food in our mouth.
Absolutely we do.
And we don't really pay attention to what we're eating or how much we're eating.
Yeah, and Ayurveda would say that that's actually one of the biggest contributors to digestive problems.
Oh, wow.
Because when we're not mindful when we're eating, we're not actually digesting our food properly.
Right.
And so that can lead to all sorts of imbalances in the body.
Okay, so mindful eating is a key principle in Ayurveda.
It is, yeah. It's a really important part of the whole system.
Okay, and so we've talked about food, we've talked about the doshas,
Yes.
and how to tailor your diet to your individual needs.
Right.
What else does Ayurveda have to say about living a healthy lifestyle?
Well, Ayurveda also emphasizes the importance of daily and seasonal routines.
Ooh, okay, so tell me more about that. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so in Ayurveda, there's this concept of dinacharya, which is basically the practice of establishing a daily routine that's aligned with the natural rhythms of the day.
So what kind of things would be included in a dinacharya practice?
Well, things like waking up early, ideally before sunrise.
Oh, man, that's early.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But Ayurveda believes that waking up before sunrise allows you to sync up with the natural rhythms of nature.
Right.
And to kind of capture that energy of the morning.
Makes sense.
And then, having a regular time for, going to bed and waking up and eating your meals and exercising and all those things.
So like creating a rhythm to your day.
Exactly. And Ayurveda believes that having that rhythm helps to create balance in the body.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And it also helps to reduce stress, because when you have a routine, your body knows what to expect.
Okay.
And so it's not constantly having to adapt to new situations.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the waking up before sunrise thing, though, because I'm not a morning person.
I hear you. I hear you.
So how important is that really? And is there any wiggle room there for us night owls?
Well, Ayurveda would say that it is ideal to wake up before sunrise, but of course, we all have different schedules and different lifestyles.
For sure.
So the most important thing is to find a time that works for you and to be consistent with it.
Okay, so consistency over like
Exactly.
that specific time.
Yeah, consistency is key.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
Good, good.
I can handle that. And what about these seasonal routines? You mentioned that as well.
Yes. So Ayurveda also has this concept of Ritucharya, which is basically the practice of adapting your lifestyle to the changing season.
Mhm. Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
So, for example, in the spring, Ayurveda recommends doing a cleanse to kind of clear out any toxins that have accumulated over the winter.
Okay.
And then in the summer, you would want to focus on staying cool and hydrated.
Right.
And then in the fall, you would want to start to kind of ground yourself and prepare for the winter.
Got it.
And then in the winter, you would want to focus on staying warm and nourished.
So it's like really tuning into nature's rhythms
Exactly.
and adjusting your lifestyle accordingly.
Yeah, and Ayurveda believes that by doing that, you can actually prevent a lot of the seasonal illnesses that we tend to get.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you're supporting your body to be in alignment with the natural world.
Absolutely, that's right.
I love that. Okay, so we've got food, we've got daily routines, seasonal routines.
Yes.
What else does Ayurveda have to offer?
Well, Ayurveda also has a lot to say about mental and spiritual well-being.
Okay, this is fascinating to me because it seems like in the West we often kind of separate these things out.
We do. Yeah, we tend to think of, mental health as being separate from physical health and spiritual health as being something completely different.
Right, right.
But Ayurveda really sees all of these things as being interconnected.
Okay.
And so it offers a variety of different tools and techniques for cultivating mental and spiritual well-being.
So what are some of the things that Ayurveda suggests for supporting mental and spiritual health?
Well, things like yoga and meditation
Mhm.
are really important in Ayurveda.
Okay.
Um, Yoga helps to calm the mind and to connect with the body.
Got it.
Meditation helps to cultivate a sense of inner peace and stillness.
I can see how those would be beneficial.
Yeah, and then Ayurveda also uses a variety of different herbs and spices that are known for their calming and grounding properties.
Oh, wow. So it's like a combination of practices
And herbs.
and herbs
Yeah.
to really support that side of things.
Absolutely, and Ayurveda really believes that mental and spiritual well-being
Hmm.
is just as important as physical well-being.
Right, because you can't have one without the other.
Exactly. Can't have one without the other. They're all interconnected.
So this is really a holistic system
It is, yeah.
that addresses every aspect of our being.
That's right.
I love that. I'm curious to learn more about these herbs, though, because I think that's something that a lot of people aren't as familiar with.
Yeah.
What are some of the specific herbs that Ayurveda uses for mental and spiritual well-being?
Yeah, so some of the most commonly used herbs in Ayurveda for mental and spiritual well-being include ashwagandha,
Ashwagandha.
yeah,
Okay.
Brahmi, and Shankpushpi.
Okay, these are all names that I've heard of, but I don't really know what they do.
Yeah, so ashwagandha is a really amazing adaptogen.
Okay.
It helps to reduce stress and anxiety.
Okay.
It can also improve sleep quality and boost energy levels.
Wow, that sounds like a wonder herb.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Brahmi is another herb that's really good for mental clarity and focus.
Okay.
It can help to improve memory and concentration.
Oh, wow.
And then Shankpushpi is an herb that's really good for calming the nervous system and promoting relaxation.
So these are all herbs that you can take like in supplement form or?
You can take them in supplement form. Yeah, you can also
Yeah.
find them in teas.
Okay.
And some people even cook with them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so we've got the practices like yoga and meditation. We've got the herbs.
Yes.
Is there anything else that Ayurveda recommends for supporting mental and spiritual well-being?
Well, Ayurveda also emphasizes the importance of living in alignment with your values and your purpose.
Okay.
So really kind of connecting with what's important to you and making sure that your lifestyle is reflecting that.
So it's like living a life that feels meaningful and purposeful.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Ayurveda believes that that's a really important part of overall well-being.
Because if you're not living in alignment with your values, you're going to feel.
You're going to feel stressed and unfulfilled.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So it's about finding that alignment and living a life that feels authentic to you.
absolutely.
I love the okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about food,
Yes.
daily routines, seasonal routines, mental and spiritual well-being.
All right.
And all of these things seem to point back to this idea of balance.
Yeah.
And finding that harmony within ourselves and with the natural world.
Absolutely. That's right.
And so I'm curious, as we kind of wrap up this first part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways that you hope our listeners are getting so far from this exploration of Ayurveda?
Yeah, I think the key takeaway really is that Ayurveda is a holistic system
Right.
that looks at the whole person.
Okay.
And it's not about, just treating symptoms. It's about really understanding the root cause of imbalances
Mm.
and then using a variety of different tools and techniques to bring the person back into balance.
And it's a system that's been around for thousands of years.
That's right.
So it's really time-tested wisdom.
It is, yeah,
Mhm.
and it's still relevant today.
Absolutely.
Even though our lives are very different from the lives of the people who developed Ayurveda,
Right.
the principles are still the same.
Right. The principles of balance and harmony and living in alignment with nature.
Exactly.
Those are timeless principles.
They are.
I love that. And I'm excited to dive deeper into this in the next part of our deep dive.
Me too.
Because I feel like we've just scratched the surface here.
We have, yeah. There's so much more to explore.
So much more to explore. So for all of you listening out there, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a quick break.
See you soon. Yeah, there's so much more to discover within Ayurveda.
Yeah.
One of the things that really fascinates me is how Ayurveda approaches the idea of natural healing and detoxification.
Okay, yeah, the source mentions that. It seems like Ayurveda really leans into the power of nature to heal the body.
Absolutely. It's a core principle of Ayurveda. The idea that nature provides us with everything we need to heal and to thrive.
It's interesting because in Western medicine, it often feels like we're trying to fight against the body's natural processes, like using medication to suppress symptoms instead of addressing the root cause.
Right. And Ayurveda takes a very different approach.
Yeah.
It's about working with the body's natural intelligence and supporting its inherent ability to heal itself.
I like that. It's like we're partnering with our bodies instead of trying to control them.
Exactly. And a big part of that is using natural remedies to support the body's healing process.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those natural remedies. The source mentions a bunch of different herbs and spices like turmeric, ginger, holy basil, amla.
Yeah, those are all incredibly potent.
Right.
And they're not just, ancient remedies either.
Mhm.
Modern science is starting to catch up with what Ayurveda has known for centuries.
Okay, give me an example.
We'll take turmeric, for instance. It's been used in Ayurveda for thousands of years for its anti-inflammatory properties.
Okay, yeah, I put turmeric in everything.
It's amazing.
Mhm.
And now research is showing that curcumin, which is the active compound in turmeric, is actually a very powerful anti-inflammatory agent.
Oh, wow. So it's like our kitchen spice rack is actually a medicine cabinet.
It is. In a way, Ayurveda sees food as medicine, and many of the spices that we use in cooking have incredible healing properties.
That's really cool. So we've got turmeric, ginger, holy basil, amla. Are there any other Ayurvedic herbs or spices that you're particularly fond of?
Oh, there's so many amazing ones. I really love ashwagandha.
Ishwagandha, that one comes up a lot.
It does, and for good reason.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful adaptogen, which means it helps the body to adapt to stress.
Okay, I've heard that term adaptogen before. Can you explain a bit more about what that means?
Yeah, so adaptogens are basically herbs that help to balance the body's stress response system.
Okay, that makes sense. So they kind of help us to roll with the punches a bit better.
Exactly. They help us to cope with stress more effectively and to maintain balance even when things are challenging.
I think we could all use a bit more of that in our lives.
I agree. And ashwagandha is a particularly good one for calming the nervous system, reducing anxiety, improving sleep.
Wow, sign me up. So we've got these amazing herbs and spices. The source also mentions this unique Ayurvedic detoxification therapy called panchakarma.
Yes, panchakarma is a very powerful cleansing practice.
I have to admit, it sounds a little intense.
It can be. It's not something you would do every day.
Okay, good.
It's typically done as a seasonal cleanse or as a way to address specific health concerns.
So what exactly does panchakarma involve?
Well, it's a series of treatments that are designed to eliminate toxins from the body and to restore balance.
Okay, and what kinds of treatments are we talking about?
It can vary depending on the individual, but it often includes things like massage, herbal therapies, steam baths, enemas.
Okay, yeah, I can see why you wouldn't want to do that every day.
Right. It's definitely a more intensive approach to detoxification.
So it sounds like panchakarma is more of a specialized treatment. Are there things that we can do on a daily basis to support our body's natural detoxification processes?
Absolutely. There are lots of simple things we can do every day to help our bodies eliminate toxins.
Like what?
Well, drinking plenty of water is essential.
Okay, that's easy enough.
And then eating a diet that's rich in fiber Fiber helps to bind to toxins and move them out of the body.
Okay, so lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And also incorporating practices like yoga and exercise, which help to stimulate circulation and lymphatic drainage.
I can see how all of those things would be beneficial.
Yeah, it's really about supporting the body's natural cleansing mechanisms.
So it's like we're giving our bodies a little extra help to do what they already do naturally.
Exactly. And that's a key principle in Ayurveda. It's about working with the body, not against it.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about natural healing detoxification. This all ties back to something that the source mentions as a key benefit of an Ayurvedic lifestyle: healthy aging.
Yes, Ayurveda has a lot to offer when it comes to healthy aging.
You know, we hear a lot about anti-aging these days in the West, but it often feels like it's focused on superficial things, like trying to erase wrinkles or hide gray hair.
Right, and Ayurveda takes a much deeper approach. It's about aging gracefully and vibrantly from the inside out.
I like that. It's not about trying to stop the aging process, it's about embracing it and making the most of every stage of life.
Exactly. And Ayurveda believes that that's possible by taking care of our physical, mental, and spiritual well-being.
It sounds like a lot of the things that we've been talking about already, like eating a healthy diet, getting enough sleep, managing stress, cultivating a sense of purpose.
Exactly. All of those things play a role in healthy aging.
And then there are the specific Ayurvedic practices like yoga and meditation and the use of herbs and spices.
Right. All of these things can help to support the body's natural healing processes and to slow down the aging process.
So it's not about finding the fountain of youth, it's about creating a lifestyle that supports longevity and vitality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about living a long and healthy and fulfilling life.
This has been such an eye-opening exploration of Ayurveda. I'm really starting to see how all of these different pieces fit together.
It's a beautiful system.
Mm.
It's really about weaving together the wisdom of the ancients with the science of today.
It's like bridging that gap between ancient wisdom and modern understanding.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about Ayurveda. It's a living tradition that continues to evolve and to offer us new insights into health and well-being.
And it's a tradition that has so much to offer us in our modern world.
It does. I think
Uh-huh.
Ayurveda has the potential to really transform the way we think about health and the way we live our lives.
I agree. Well, this has been such a fascinating conversation. I'm so grateful for your insights.
It's been my pleasure.
Before we wrap up, though, I'd love to hear from our listeners. What's resonating with you so far? What are you taking away from this deep dive into Ayurveda?
Yeah, what are your thoughts? Yeah, what are your thoughts? What's standing out to you as we kind of get towards the end of our deep dive into Ayurveda?
Well, I think for me, the biggest takeaway is that Ayurveda is not just about, treating illness. It's about living a life that prevents illness in the first place.
I love that.
It's about creating a lifestyle that supports health and well-being.
Absolutely. And that's a really important distinction because, in Western medicine, we often wait until we're sick
Right.
to seek help.
And then we try to fix the problem.
Exactly. Whereas Ayurveda is really about preventing the problem from arising in the first place.
And it seems like that's done through all of these different practices that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
The diet, the daily routines, the seasonal routines, the herbs, the mental and spiritual practices. It's like all of these things work together to create this foundation of health.
It is, yeah. It's about weaving all of these different elements together to create a tapestry of well-being.
And I love that, a tapestry of well-being.
Yeah.
And it's so holistic.
Mm.
Right. It's not just about, taking a pill or, doing one thing. It's about addressing all of the different aspects of our being.
Exactly. It's about looking at the whole person and understanding how all of those different parts are interconnected.
And it's about recognizing that we are a part of nature.
Yes.
We're not separate from nature.
That's right.
We are a part of this web of life.
And when we live in alignment with nature's rhythms, we thrive.
Right.
We feel our best.
It's like we're tacking into this ancient wisdom
Yeah.
that's been passed down for centuries.
And it's still relevant today.
Absolutely. And it's something that we can all benefit from,
We can.
no matter where we live or what our lifestyle is like.
Yeah, it's about, taking these ancient principles and applying them to our modern lives.
And making them our own,
Exactly.
finding what works for us and incorporating it into our daily routines.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to, completely overhaul your life
Right.
overnight.
Just start with small changes.
Start with small changes, yeah. And just, see what happens.
You know what resonates with you?
Yeah.
and what makes you feel good,
Absolutely.
and go from there.
That's right.
This has been so inspiring.
It has.
I feel like I've learned so much about Ayurveda, and I'm really excited to start incorporating some of these practices into my own life.
I am too.
As we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I would just encourage everyone to keep exploring Ayurveda.
Okay.
To learn more about it.
Okay.
To see how it can benefit their lives.
And there are so many resources available.
There are.
There are books and websites and practitioners. So,
Yeah.
so it's really accessible to everyone.
It is.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
This has been such a fascinating conversation.
It has.
And I know our listeners are going to get a lot out of it.
I hope so.
For everyone listening out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Ayurveda.
Yes, thank you.
We'll see you next time for another exploration of health and wellness.
Bye, everyone.